Welcome to the session on preparing your seminary application, how to make it stand out from the crowd. These sessions are brought to you by the seminaries of the Presbyterian Church USA. This session in particular is brought to you by Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, and I am Reverend Derek Davenport from our admissions department. So when you're preparing your application for seminary, it's important to remember that every applicant on every application is trying to make themselves sound good. That's kind of the point. So the result is that all the applications can start to look pretty much the same. If you're not careful, your application winds up getting lost in the crowd. But with a little thought, there are some things you can do to make your application stand out, to make sure that you're on the tip of the tongue of your admissions counselor and that you're on the top of the pile of all the other applications. And there are three things I'd like to talk to you about today that can help make your application stand out. First, try to highlight something that makes your application unique. Second, interview to impress. And third, choose your references wisely. So first, we'll talk about things to make your application unique and themes that you can highlight. So one way to go about this is to think in particular about the story that you're trying to tell with your application. Look back over some of the significant events that have brought you to the place in life that you're applying to seminary. You might consider what your undergraduate major is, or if you had a minor or concentration in that major. You might consider what your work experience is, what volunteer experience you have, or what you hope to do after seminary. If you take a few seconds and jot these sorts of things down on a piece of paper, it can be helpful to then go back and circle the ones that tend to be repeated. You may find that there are some themes that pop up over and over, and that's the kind of thing we want to focus on. That's what you want to highlight to make your application unique. So once you've done that, once you've gone back and identified themes, it's time to put them to work. I want to give you maybe some examples of what themes might be. If you look back over your significant events, if you had, say, a major in Spanish and you did quite a bit of mission work in South America, and you also minored in religion, but you have got volunteer experience at mission organizations, those kinds of things tell a very good story. Now, if, on the other hand, you also were a member of your college's ski club and you play a lot of video games, those are also nice things about your personality, but they may not have a whole lot to do with your story. So they'll be secondary to your sort of profile. And we're going to want to focus on the things that unify that message and help to tell the story through your application. So there are a couple different ways you can do that. First is in your personal statement. Most seminaries are going to require some sort of personal statement or autobiographical statement or a series of essays. When you write those, highlight that theme. Point out that there are a number of things that have worked together to bring you to this place. For example, going back to the student that's got experience in international mission work and as well as a major in Spanish, let us know that the mission work was in South America, that it goes along nicely with the major. Let us know that the volunteer work will also go along with that same theme and that may be somewhere where you're considering serving in ministry. And that way, we see one consistent story that we can attach to your application. So in your personal statement, in your autobiographical essay, in your questions, make sure that you're drawing out those significant themes, particularly the ones that work together to bring you to the place of applying to seminary. It's also important to point out that each seminary may ask the question a little bit differently. Don't hijack the question just to tell your story. Make sure that you're answering the questions that are asked, but do so in a way that highlights your unique strengths. And of course, it's always important, after you finish your personal statement or your essays, take 10 extra minutes and read through it again. Make sure your grammar is right, make sure your spelling is correct, make sure the style is appropriate, and it's worth having a friend or a mentor or a family member look over it as well. It takes just a few extra minutes, and it can really make a difference in how we view you through your writing. Next is an interview. Some schools will require an interview. Even if an interview is not required, chances are good that you'll have a phone conversation with someone in the admissions department, or you'll visit the campus. It's always a good idea to visit campus when you're able to. So you will probably interact with someone from the admissions department in some capacity. When you do that, this is a great opportunity to tell your story again. Mention what it is you're hoping to do and what's brought you to that point. Make sure that you highlight all those really important things that have sort of created this sense of call in this time in your life. You don't need to give a 45-minute testimony, but you can highlight the significant events that have brought you here. Doing so will help us put a face and a voice to that file that we've already gotten comfortable with, and again, it will help you stand out from the crowd. There are a couple other things you can do when you interview. And we'll come back to the interview in just a little bit when we focus on that a few minutes down the road. Next is the fine print. In your applications, you're going to have a chance to talk about your experiences, your interests, previous work or volunteer experiences. Pay attention to those. Don't just list everything all at once. Make sure that you're highlighting the very important experiences that work together. Include any pertinent information. And if you run out of space, remember that your theme is a priority. Going back to our example, ski club is a nice experience to have had, but it doesn't really tell the story. So if you run out of space and have to choose between ski club and the mission experience, make sure you tell me about the mission experience. You can mention ski club later in the interview if you want to, but it's important for me to see the thread that has brought you to this place. So when you list all of your experiences and your interests, make sure that you point them out in a way that highlights your theme. Now, if you've gone back and you've looked over the sort of major events in your life and you find that none of your experiences or opportunities in the past have anything to do with your theme, that's significant. If you really are interested in doing international mission, but you've never done it before, you've never studied foreign languages, you've never volunteered at a mission organization, you've never heard a missionary speak, you may wonder what it is that's drawing you to mission work. That doesn't mean that it can't be a good theme. It might be that you need to change it, or you might need to explain why your experiences have come from a different place and how that different place has brought you to an interest in mission work, for example. Fourth, in references. All seminaries are going to ask you to provide references. We'll talk a little bit more about choosing good ones in a few minutes. But when you are selecting your references with your theme in mind, you can be shrewd in choosing them and make sure that the references you select are going to reinforce your overall message. If you are hoping to go to seminary so you can go on to become an ethics professor, it might be wise to select your ethics professor from college to serve as a reference. If we go back to that example of mission work, you might want to use the mission organization that you worked with as a reference. While it might be nice to hear from your history professor, someone who can testify to that theme is going to give us yet another place to reinforce your story. And so when I, as an admissions counselor, read that reference, it just again reinforces the same message that I've started to associate with your name, your face, your voice, and your file. And so when you're thinking about people that can reinforce that message, take into consideration not only their position, but the experience that you've had with them and your relationship with them, because those are the things that they're going to have in mind as they write your reference. So if you've served with them in a capacity that will highlight your theme, they're going to write about that. So keep in mind your relationship with the people that you ask to serve as references. The final way that you may want to consider communicating your theme is through follow-up. This is a great way to just hit one more time on your main message. After you have a chance to interview or speak with someone from admissions, after you send in your application, and after your references should have started arriving, it's not a bad idea to just send a friendly email to the person that you spoke with, thank them for their time, and highlight that conversation again. Say, it was wonderful to speak with you last week. I enjoyed hearing about the opportunities in my chosen field, and explain what that is. I was glad that I could talk to you a little bit about what I did in my service when I was in college or serving a mission organization or tutoring students. And I enjoyed that conversation, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. Please let me know if there's anything else that you need to receive from me. For one, that's just going to help move the process along, but also more significantly, this is yet another way to reinforce your story. It's another way for me to remember who you are, what your interests are, and what makes you stand out. So as you're working on your application, these are 5 ways you can communicate the story that makes you unique. Highlight your interest for yourself, clarify that by looking back over your life experiences, and then make sure that it stands out in your personal statement, in your interview, in your chosen references, and your follow-up, so that we, on the other side of the table, have a good, easy way to remember who you are and to identify with you that story. So, now that we already talked about how to make your application stand out as unique, let's now talk about some ways that you can focus on your interview and make sure that you make the right impression. The first thing to do is to get prepared. This doesn't take much time. Just do your homework before the interview. Know something about the institution. It should really only take you about 10 or 15 minutes of browsing through a seminary website. So whenever you have an interview or a conversation scheduled, take a little bit of time, sit down, and make some notes about the school. Point out anything that strikes you as particularly exciting or that raises your concern, anything that's unique about that school, and keep a list of those things. And as you look through the specifics of the school that you're considering, try and jot down 3 to 5 questions that are specific to the school. This might be about their particular neighborhood. It might be about their curriculum. Another easy way is to spend some time on the faculty section of the websites. Look at what the faculty have published. Find the faculty member that teaches in an area you're interested in and see what you can learn about their publications. When it comes time to interview, you will then have a list of 3 to 5 questions that show us that you're taking the interview seriously, that you're taking our school seriously, and that you take your studies seriously. For a student to sit down in my office and say, I've done some research on Dr. Example, and I've seen that he's published a number of books on hypothetical studies, and I wondered if he ever teaches in that area, that's going to impress me. I'm going to remember you as someone who is prepared and who is very serious about their studies. So make sure you have some questions that are specific to the school. And it's also important to make not only the general questions about financial aid and housing, but these specific questions, because it shows me not just that you're serious about seminary, but that you're serious about my seminary. And that means that I need to take you seriously and take your application seriously. So not only do you need to get prepared, but you also need to be prepared. When it comes the day for your interview or for your visit, find the building 15 to 30 minutes before you need to be there. Pull up into the parking lot or find a parking space or go into the lobby and look over those notes. Make sure that the information on the school is fresh inside your head. That way you're not going to get lost on campus in the wrong building. You're not going to take a wrong turn and find yourself in the wrong neighborhood. That gives you a good window, a good cushion, so that you will make sure you're on time and that the information is fresh in your mind. When you come for your visit or interview, make sure you bring something to write with and some paper to write on. Make sure that you have your questions, because you will forget them. Sometimes interviewing can feel like a high-pressure situation. All the admissions folks at the PCUSA schools, we know each other. We're pretty nice people for the most part, but we can be intimidating. So make sure you have your questions so that they don't slip out of your mind. And if you've already submitted some information, if you've already sent essays, personal statements, or you've filled out the application form, it might not be a bad idea to have a paper copy with you. Now, it gets trickier if you fill things out online. Sometimes you are still able to print off a copy. But it's always good to have a copy with you just in case something got lost in the mail, lost from one inbox to another, got stuck in the system. If the admissions counselor you're working with says that there's a piece of information missing, it may be helpful for you to actually hand it physically to them during that meeting. So that's what you need to bring with you, and there's some things you want to take away. As you interview, you're going to get a lot of information. Remember, the school is interviewing you, but you're also interviewing the school. Get as much information as you can. Get facts and figures. Find out about the financial aid system. Find out about the class sizes, about the curriculum, about scheduling, and take notes. For one, it'll be nice for you to refer to as you go through in your decision-making process. But also, when you take notes, it shows me that you're paying attention and that you're taking the interview seriously, which again is going to work in your favor. Also, do your best to get a business card from anyone you officially meet with, whether that's an admissions counselor or a faculty person, anyone who takes the time to sit down with you and talk to you about the school. Try and get a business card from them. If you spend time meeting with some current students, they may not have business cards, but try and get contact information from them so that you can follow up. And so finally, not only do you need to get prepared and be prepared, but make sure you also look prepared. Look nice. This is not the day to skip your shave or to try out the edgy new hairstyle or to experiment with hair dye. Make sure that you're looking presentable and professional. A good rule of thumb is if you wouldn't wear it to meet your significant other's grandma, don't wear it to your interview. Pick from the nice side of the closet and make sure that your clothes are clean, pressed, and neat. We're going to, whether we like it or not, we tend to make decisions and judgments about people as soon as we see them. You're going to do that for the person that's interviewing you, and the person who's interviewing you is going to start sizing you up, even subconsciously, as soon as you walk through the door. So make sure that first impression is good. When you're asked questions in your interview, answer them honestly and directly. You do want to portray yourself in a positive light, but you want to make sure that you're portraying yourself. So be honest and be direct. And make sure that you have a chance to ask questions. Again, that shows that you're taking it seriously and that you know what you're talking about. It's also a great time for you to get some direct information from someone on campus. You'll be able to ask questions that may not be answered on the website. So make sure you ask those questions. And of course, always be polite. We're people too. Be nice to us. Be thankful for the time and make sure that you follow up afterwards. The follow-up can be very important to the whole process. So we've covered ways that you can make your application stand out as unique. We've talked about some things you can do to be impressive in your interview or your visit. And so now just a few tips on how to choose your references wisely. First of all, sounds like common sense, but it's very, very important to remember. When choosing your references, please follow the directions. Different schools have different standards for references. Some may ask for 2 or 3 or 4. Make sure that you supply at least the number of references that you're asked to supply. If a school asks for 4, they may not be able to process your application with 3. You may need to make sure that all 4 are in before you can move forward in the process. At times it may be worthwhile to supply an extra reference just in case one gets lost in the mail or arrives a little late. But make sure you supply at least the number of references that are requested. Also, various schools will ask for various kinds of references. Make sure that you supply someone within each of those categories or realms. Typically, schools may ask for an academic reference, so it may be worthwhile to choose a professor or an academic advisor or someone who knows you within the realm of school and your academic work. Schools will sometimes ask for professional references, which might be a boss or a supervisor or an employer. Typically, seminaries are going to ask for some sort of ecclesiastical reference, a pastor, an elder, a board member from your church. Whatever those areas are, make sure that you supply each one that's requested. Now, if one of the seminaries that you're applying to has broader sort of categories and just says perhaps 3 references plus a church reference or something like that, it's still helpful to try and present a well-balanced picture of who you are. So if a school doesn't provide you any guidelines, consider using an academic reference, a professional reference, a personal reference, and sort of a church reference so that they can get a well-rounded picture of your personality. Also, and this one is really important, make sure that your references are chosen with plenty of time to make the deadlines. This is one of the big things that hangs people up sometimes in the application process. They ask someone to serve as a reference, and 3, 4, 5 weeks later, it still hasn't been sent. It's not because the person doesn't mean to or intend to or want to serve as a reference, but sometimes the reference forms or requests get buried under stacks of paperwork or emails, and the reference never gets sent. So make sure that when you ask someone, there's plenty of time, and again, make sure that you're following up. So again, they provide a good range. These are the 4 different opportunities or areas that you might want to consider. We've kind of already covered those, so we can move forward. And in terms of who you ask, try to use some common sense. The professor who knows you well, who's giving you good grades, and is teaching in the area that highlights your strength, that's a good person to ask. Always a good idea to ask the pastor or the church leader who first said to you, have you considered seminary? It might be good to ask someone within the school structure if you happen to know a board member who first introduced you to the school, or if you're old friends with a faculty member, or someone on the administration, or even a current student. Those people can sometimes show us a relationship that you have to the school. Don't ask, which, first of all, I left off the T on don't there. But people not to ask. The professor that doesn't remember your name and failed you twice, don't ask that person. They're not going to provide a good reference. Don't ask the pastor that you can't get along with and you don't understand. And try not to ask a family member. We're going to assume that your family loves you and thinks highly of you. So try to ask people who can provide a relevant insight into who you are, people who know you well, people who are going to portray you in a positive light. And then the follow-up again. A lot of times references find their way on the back burner. So after you ask someone to serve as a reference, jot that down in your calendar or in your Outlook, or send an email to yourself so that you have a record of when you asked. And then in about 7 days to 2 weeks, send them an email and follow up. You say, I just wanted to see if you had a chance to look at that reference form, if you had questions about it, or if there's anything else you need from me. Because if they've already filled it out, this gives them a chance to tell you that it's been filled out, it's been sent in, and you have an idea of the timeline. If they haven't filled it out yet, this reminds them that there is a time issue, and it reminds them to move it back to the top priority. And if they've forgotten, this will remind them. So make sure that after about a week or two of asking someone to serve as a reference, you send a friendly reminder just asking if they've had a chance to do it yet or if they have questions. If you send a check-in with someone and they say, oh, I completely forgot, I'll try and send that in first thing tomorrow, restart the clock and check in 7 days later because it may once again find its way to the bottom of the pile. So follow up with people, preferably until they're able to tell you, yes, I sent it in and things went well. So those are some tips on how to make your application stand out. First of all, make sure that you find what it is that makes your application unique, what makes you stand out, and then share it through your personal statement, through your interview, through the fine print, through your references, and through your follow-up. When you interview, make sure that you demonstrate that you're taking the interview seriously, that you're a serious prospect, and that you're someone who's important to consider for admission. And choose your references wisely. Choose references that are going to portray you in a positive light, who come from a well-rounded range of your experience and are going to help us understand your story better. And again, make sure that you follow up. Follow up after your interviews, follow up after your application goes in, follow up with your references. This is going to help you stand out from the crowd. Finally, just a couple little pieces of information from here and there. Transcripts and background checks. The Presbyterian schools are all going to require background checks. Background checks tend to take a week or two to actually come in, so make sure you start that process accordingly. Transcripts also. Schools are generally pretty good about sending transcripts out, but nonetheless, we typically need paper copies, and we're stuck waiting for them. So make sure that you ask for transcripts to be sent, and you begin the background check process with a few weeks to spare so that they can be in time. Again, proofread your entire application. It'll help avoid mistakes. Be polite. We're people too. We're excited to get to meet you. This is one of our favorite parts of the job, but make sure that you're polite with us, and that's going to go a long way. Part of that is this next point. Once you make a decision, let us know. If you decided you're coming to our school, let us know as soon as you can. That way we can celebrate with you and we can help you move forward. If you've chosen another school, let us know that too. That way we might be able to open up your spot or your scholarship for someone else. So as soon as you make a decision, contact the schools that you've applied to and let them know where you are in the process. And also look both ways before crossing the street. This has nothing to do with applying, but it just seems like good advice. So that's all I have for you today. As you look through your application process, do everything you can to make it stand out. If you have questions about the process or you're unsure about how one of the specific parts of any application goes, there are plenty of admissions counselors from all the schools that would be thrilled to talk with you. So please email us and let us know what we can do to help you. God bless you in your call, and good luck.